Hi everyone, my name is Dr. Scott Schell and I'm a specialist in the Germanic languages. I have a bachelor's degree in German, a master's degree in linguistics, and a PhD in Germanic linguistics from the University of California, Berkeley. I am also a published author, and if you are interested in taking a look at my CV, I will go ahead and post it in the video description below. Now, today what I wanted to do was go ahead and begin a new series in this channel. It is going to essentially focus on the Old Saxon runes. It's going to focus on the rune names. It's going to focus on, descriptions of the runes and where they appear throughout the Halion, right, the Old Saxon corpus material. And I will go ahead and explain to you whether or not I had to reconstruct the name or where it's attested and so on and so forth. Furthermore, I'm going to actually go ahead and give you a personalized Old Saxon rune poem for each rune that I have created. And now, you may have actually noticed that there is an Old English rune poem, an Old Icelandic rune poem, an Old Norwegian rune rhyme, and there's even an early modern Swedish rune poem too, but there's no Old Saxon rune poem. And so that is partially the reason why I went ahead and took it upon myself just to create one. It is a personalized poem. It is not a reconstruction, semantically speaking. In other words, I use Old Saxon. It's reconstructed in that way, but it's just a personalized poem. Now, I do believe that the Old Saxons, as in the continental Saxons, would have still used the Elder Futhark system. There is really no reason for them to have used something different. After all, the younger Futhark system reflected the Old Norse speech at the time, and then the Old English system, of course, reflected the Old English speech at the time. But if you look at Proto-Germanic and you look at Old Saxon, you'll see that there's not really too many changes going on as far as the sound shifts are concerned. So that out of the way, the very first rune that I wanted to give to you today is going to be Fehu. Fehu. This could actually be pronounced with the H or without. If you would like the true Halion pronunciation of this name, it would actually be Fehu, Fehu, without the H. Simply put, if you pronounce it with the H, you're just being a little archaic. But in the Halion, you would not pronounce that H. And so you might say, well, what is the H doing there, right? Well, it's actually there for a hiatus breaker. Essentially, it's there to tell the reader that there is a syllable boundary between the E and the U. So in other words, it's there to tell the reader that this is not a diphthong. But again, the H was there in older times, so it's completely up to you. So the word Fehu does actually exist in the Halion. It also exists in several other compounds, such as Fehu leek, which is literally like Fehu lich or Fehu body, and is specifically meant for cattle. There is also Fehu skat, or it's really attested in its plural form, in which case is Fehu skatos, in which case is literally Fehu treasures. That skatos there is actually related directly to German Schatz. And usually that's used for like gold coins or silver coins and so on and so forth, but you do find the word Fehu just by itself in the Halion. Therefore, too, the notion of Fehu in the Old Saxon Halion is rather abstract. It doesn't necessarily mean directly like cattle, because why else would you have a compound like Fehu leek describing the kind of Fehu? So there are even other compounds too, such as like Fehu greedy, in which case is used in a context to where it's saying that the fire, in which case the fire that consumes materials, is literally greedy of this sort of Fehu concept. So this sort of like energy must, be balanced, of course, when discussing Fehu. All right, so let me go ahead and give you that rune poem that I was talking about. I will go ahead and give it to you in traditional Germanic meter. In other words, just like the horn of Gallius with the ek clevegastes holtias horna tawido. You have those four primary stresses, and you have the first three syllables all alliterating with the same sound, but then the fourth primary stress syllable is a different sound. Fehu, en in þeim feraha þess fólkis brynnit. Fehu, en in þeim feraha þess fólkis brynnit. So you can see that there's the F that is stressed, the F that is stressed again, the F that is stressed yet again, and then we have the fourth stress on the B. And this means Fehu burns within the life force of the folk. Now the second line is Yahuyi en en usen halun helido yeslikaro. Yahuyi en en usen halun helido yeslikaro. Remember the ghostly heroes in our halls. So without the translation and just going straight away, it is simply Fehu en in þeim feraha þess fólkis brynnit. Yahuyi en en usen halun helido yeslikaro. So essentially you have all of your stresses there, just like traditional Germanic meter. And again, that is just a sort of recreation. It's a personal recreation. And so this is how I am personally able to resonate with this concept of Fehu. Right, so I would just encourage you all to do the same. Maybe create your own poem, see what you come up with. This is just another way to sort of bring the past to the present and to synthesize the objective with the subjective and make it, something meaningful. I mean, just imagine the kind of rune stones that you can create. Just imagine the kind of, chants that you can create, or, anything else that you want to come up with. I always found it kind of interesting that, when working in this context, let's say you're working with an ancestor or something like that, or you're working with the Saxons, I find it kind of interesting that you can literally use this language to speak directly, right, to resonate that way. So in a way, it's kind of like a gift, right? And of course, with that exchange of communication, it's like you're also, being able to essentially speak the language of the land too. So, again, it's just one of many, many different ways that we can resonate with this particular practice. So, well, hopefully you have liked this so far. Again, just to kind of recap, we have Fehu, in which case means this sort of something of a monetary value, really the sort of abstract notion of wealth. You have Fehu Leek, you have Fehu Scott, and so on and so forth. So you have all these different attestations, and just to give you the pronunciation again, the archaic pronunciation will be Fehu with that H, and then the Halion pronunciation would be without the pronunciation of that H, and it would be Fehu, Fehu. All right, and also, I should also mention that this poem that I've created here, along with the next 23 that are going to be in this series, can be found in a new book. I actually contributed to this new book that's coming out called The Rune Poems, A Reawakened Tradition. It's an amazing book. It's going to be available through Arcana Europa by the end of this month. And essentially this book is focused on two different parts. The first part is purely academic. It's going to give you a new translation of the Old English rune poem, the Old Icelandic rune poem, the Old Norwegian rune rhyme, and the very much overlooked early modern Swedish rune poem. And all of the poems are going to be translated by Dr. Michael Moynihan. He's got all kinds of awesome footnotes in there for the people who are, academics and they really want to know, a little bit of extra information about those poems. The second part of the book, however, is dealing with like this sort of recreate or reawakened tradition, in which case consists of rune poems from people who are very dedicated to just learning about, the runic mysteries. And there are going to be rune poems in there from the last 4 or so decades. So it's a really interesting book. If you're just if you're an academic and you're into this sort of thing, you'll definitely get a lot out of that book. If you're a heathen, you'll also get quite a bit out of that book too, and maybe even feel inspired to compose your own poem. So, all right, well, that is all I have for you today. That'll be the first video in this series. We're going to go ahead and start with the first rune here, Fehu, or Fehu. So, go ahead and leave a comment below. And please subscribe, like the video, and share it, so on and so forth. and I will see you all soon.